So I saw this video the other day and I have a problem with it. Now, I'm not trying to go around and tell people that their personal experiences are wrong, that their opinions are wrong. That's not the point of what I'm trying to do here. What I'm trying to do is bring an objective linguistic perspective to a particularly turbulent subject in today's modern dialogue. Clearly, I have no personal history with AAVE. I can't speak to that, but what I will be discussing is why this video needs to be addressed and the dangerous misconceptions that can come from it. So AAVE has many names. Most colloquially, it is known as the Blaccent or talking black. In the past, it's gone by Ebonics, although that is now today rather controversial to refer to it as. Sometimes it's known as Black Vernacular English. Linguistically, we call it African American Vernacular English. And essentially, this is a vernacular spoken predominantly by Black North Americans. It is considered a dialect, but more specifically a sociolect, a ethnolect. This means that it's historically based on ethnic or socioeconomic background. Later, I'll get into why that is no longer generally the case today. Although I will say that linguistics today have a really interesting argument going on right now because it seems as though there are a lot of parallels between West African Creoles and AAVE, which is really cool, and it does kind of put the origin into question. But for the purposes of this video, I will be referring to its origin as what is today to be the most accepted thing. So there's a lot of evidence that shows that this vernacular comes predominantly from the American South, mostly from enslaved communities who were forbidden from having an education. Going back to the video for a second, one thing she said that irked me was that why would Black people want to claim bad English? She said, and I quote, "Of all the things to gatekeep and say that this is specific to Blackness, this broken English and slang and Ebonics, is that really what we want to gatekeep as a culture?" Now, there's a lot to unpack here. I won't speak to the personal importances of this dialect because I'm not equipped to talk about that, but linguistically, AAVE is an important part of American history. That's undeniable. For many, it's an inclusion marker, it's a shared likeness. It's acknowledging the circumstances that essentially brought us to where we are now. To call it broken English is offensive, misguided, and simply not true. African American Vernacular English is English. It has its own vocabulary, its own phonology, its own grammar structures in some cases. There are language features that don't even show up in English, like the double negative. Hearing something like, "he's not coming around here no more." That would be something you might hear in African American Vernacular English, but the double negative prevents it from being a grammatical structure in standard English. Despite all these differences though, it is categorized as a dialect of English. The mutual intelligibility between standard English and AAVE is it's very high. Now along that mutual intelligibility, there is quite a bit of code switching among the users of AAVE, and that could be for a variety of reasons. Most prominent being perhaps saving face, inclusive language, or for that matter, exclusive language, or just wanting to be better understood or better liked by whomever they are speaking to at that moment. And the thing about code switching is that people do it all the time, even within standard English. You know, you switch registers, you speak differently to your boss than you would to your best friend, you might cuss with your best friend, you might use more honorifics with your boss. It's who you're trying to communicate with. The difference is that this is, being a socio-dialect, being an ethno-dialect, there are certain stigmas that come with the usage, unfortunately. And given our less appetizing history in this country, it's not hard to imagine why someone would want to code switch. And it makes me laugh because in this video, she pulls up like this whole glossary translating AAVE to standard English. A glossary. Someone has gone through and basically created a whole translation page, and this girl calls it broken English. Something's not adding up. There are actually schools in the US that are teaching AAVE instead of standard English, and that is so very cool. The point of this is to eliminate the stigma and to be proud of one's history and background, given the amount of suffering that was involved. Hey folks, it's editing me. I'm a little sick, so if my voice is a little scratchy, that's why. Anyways, I just need to tell you that I just dug a little deeper into the whole thing. It turns out that Oakland schools were actually attempting to get AAVE recognized as its own language, which is so cool. And it actually successfully did in 1996. But then a few months later, it was repealed because it was so close to English. Either way, it appears they're still teaching it in schools. I also wanted to point out just really quickly that apparently in 1979 in East Michigan, a federal judge ruled if we are going to teach Black kids how to read and write, we must adjust to their dialect. That is so cool. He basically said that teachers were contributing to the failure of these children by not taking their own language usage in account. Okay, 1979, let's go. Apparently that was slightly more progressive than 2021, but okay, we'll take it. And to those who think, well, they're just teaching them bad English, let me ask you, what is good English? Most would say the Queen's English. Are you speaking the Queen's English, Kyle? No? Does it feel dishonest to your American pride and lineage to fake a British accent in effort to speak proper English? I promise you that people were calling whatever it is that you're speaking a bastardization of their own language as well. So you feeding into this stigma is actually just a perpetuation of the problem. In linguistics, if you understand the other person and the other person understands you, that's effective communication, period. Anything more complicated than that is simply stigmatized in favor of the people in power. In conclusion, stigmatizing AAVE is really just another form of oppression. People learn Spanish, they can choose either Spanish from Spain or Spanish from Mexico. Those are very different dialects. And I'm sure the Spanish from Mexico had its fair share of stigma, but it's still Spanish. And the thing is you see AAVE used all over media, all over TikTok, all over YouTube. It's in most any conversation that anybody is having. If you've ever said, "It do be like that," or "I'm China," or even "I'm a," you have participated in some piece of AAVE. Now, I'm not fit to tell you who has the right to use AAVE and who doesn't. It's not within my power to explain the historical gravity and nuances that come with this dialect, but I do know that this vernacular has been accepted into common day usage for way more people than the Black community. I also know that the Black community gets a lot of crap for using it, so there's a disconnect there. I've seen TikTokers and YouTubers use AAVE for clout, when it seems like they have no other connection to it besides the fact that they think it's cool. And that there is where one does not compute. But anyways, this was just a short little rant. I'm hoping to do more linguistic videos. I think this one was so important, and having seen that video, it definitely warranted a discussion. If you have any questions, leave them below. Any comments, please feel free to ask. It's a really important topic that a lot of people don't want to talk about or will not educate themselves about. So please feel free to open a conversation. I am by no means an expert, but I do know that. That being said, I hope you have an excellent day, and I'll see you real soon. Love you, bye!
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.